The only thing that maybe could save the country is also one of the scariest things for the country. I believe Bill Clinton has an eye. I think he still has it, and I think it is still being used. Can you find me a single clip of someone losing their life from that tactic? I mean, maybe it exists. I haven't seen it. I think he probably would make a better president than Donald Trump, only because he's not going to say that for no reason. He's warning people, right? There's a scary possibility of getting closer to communism and getting closer to less freedom. I think it's way worse than we're even able to see right now. He's already using AI in a way to manipulate elections.
How's Twitter income?
It's actually, so you'd be surprised, putting pretty much all of my money in one particular thing, and that is...
Welcome back to another episode of the Meet Kevin Show. Today, we're back with Mikey, but also Matt Wallace. Welcome. Matt Wallace, over 1.4 million followers on Twitter. You cover trending topics, trending news all the time. You are the master of engagement on Twitter, and the first engaging question I have for you is, who's going to win the election? We'll start easy.
Unless you run, obviously. I think Donald Trump right now has by far the best chance to win the election. There was a time when it looked like maybe Ron DeSantis had a chance to sneak in there.
What happened?
He's fizzled out. I mean, he's fizzled out. At the end of the day, a lot of people who I know that were considering supporting him decided, not so much anymore. It seems like Donald Trump has a clear runway now to go against Joe Biden. He's beating him by around 3 points in the polls right now, which is actually surprising because at the same time, last election cycle, like before the election started, the same amount of time before it, we saw Biden up by, I think, 2 points on Trump in the polls. And a lot of people don't know this, but Trump, you may know this, but Trump won in 2016 by like 100,000 votes in 3 states. He lost in 2020 by about 100,000 votes in 3 states, despite losing the popular vote because of the Electoral College. So it's actually way easier for Trump to pick up those few votes he needs to win than people even imagine. So if he's up in the polls right now, that does not look very good for the people who are on the side of, I hope Trump is the nominee because I think we can beat him. It just doesn't look good. And a lot of people think, based on what I post, that I'm just like super far right. I'm really not. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to see the country back on track with the economy. I just want to see us have a good future. I mean, it's frustrating to watch when they're going trillions of dollars into debt. Trillions. I mean, with the T, like, come on. Like, what are they doing? And to watch them sell it to special interest groups all the time, it's just frustrating. And if someone can come in and fix that, it would make life better for the rest of our future.
Do you think somebody like Vivek can fix that?
I'm starting to warm up to him. I really am. I mean, I was skeptical at first. Of course, you know, he's coming onto the scene. He's coming on hot. I do feel like he's starting to kind of make some inroads, though. He's the only person. And you could say maybe he's putting on an act, but you can only put on an act for so long. I mean, at some point you have to realize that's really what he's doing. Like those are his opinions. He's the only person that's willing to say things that you're not allowed to say, quote unquote.
Right.
And he doesn't recite all the talking points that the other candidates recite based on what they have to because of who their donors are. So
he's pretty blunt, and you kind of have to appreciate that. You know, was one of the things that people really liked about Trump was that he has this very simple way of speaking and very clear. Like people thought, well, at least I know where he stands rather than getting a runaround political jargon answer. I think maybe is that potentially what people felt out of DeSantis a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, it seems. And DeSantis, I feel like, has gotten worse as VR has gotten better. It's interesting how that works.
Vivek's taking over. Well, but then there's Nikki as well taking it.
I mean, Nikki Haley's, her popularity rating though online is absolutely in the garbage. I mean, because she's pushing so much of the pro-war stuff, which is just a real big turnoff to anyone who understands that they're only pushing that so hard because they get paid through the back end through it, whether it's donors or special interest groups that are
sitting
paying
on a
for
board.
Speeches. Yeah, all that stuff. And I think another interesting thing is about Vivek. When he first started, he didn't look like he knew what he was doing, really. No one knows what they're doing for real when they first started. You have to get a hang of it. And I've watched him to where he didn't really know what he was doing in interviews. And not a lot of people maybe even noticed that. You can tell if you've done them before. Like you can see the little things where he's like, okay, he's really trying to get the hang of it. Now, though, I feel like he has that handle on it. Like he's gotten a lot better at it, which is it's interesting to see the development of candidates. rather than just like who they are after they're already at that point.
That's a good point. So a lot of practice that he's getting. Now,
Yeah.
how much do you think the spread flip between Biden and Trump that you just referred to is because of the economy?
Oh, I mean, a huge percentage of it. When you're looking at gas that's now twice as expensive in many cases, when you're looking at grocery store prices. And to be fair, Trump did allow too much money to be spent when it comes to the national debt. Approximately $7 trillion under Donald Trump. Most of that, in terms of like the biggest spending, was around 3 to 4 trillion in just really the COVID years. And a lot of people say, okay, well, look at what the president did. Obama around 8 trillion in his 8 years. Joe Biden's already at like 6 point something trillion, nearing above 7 trillion in only 3 years, which is insane. I mean, look at Congress though. That's the most important thing. If there's a Congress that's willing to spend a lot of money, get backdoor deals and that type of thing, that's where you're going to see that happening the most, regardless of who's president.
Wow. Good.
Last week, you asked if people thought Elon Musk would make a better president than Joe Biden. My question is, do you think Elon Musk would make a better president than Trump?
Ooh, interesting question. So right now, I think he probably would make a better president than Donald Trump, only because he just simply works an insane amount, even more than Trump. And Trump works a lot. I think Trump in his first term will be significantly worse of a president than Trump in his second term. So I will put the caveat, maybe in his second term, Donald Trump will be better than Elon Musk because he has so much more experience. He does have faults though. Donald Trump did not do everything perfect. He did make a lot of mistakes. Trusting people he shouldn't have trusted, hiring the wrong people. Elon Musk, I feel like, would make better decisions for a first term. Maybe Trump would be better for a second term. We'll have to find out, I guess.
Wow. Do you think Trump will make it? I mean, it looks like it's going to come down to the Supreme Court. Do you think he'll be on the ballot?
If Trump's not on the ballot, I mean, what do we do at that point? If they can find a way to succeed in that, it'll be pretty ridiculous. And another thing I will add, that because people will say, oh, Elon Musk can't run because he's not a United States citizen. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, just change the law. Just let him.
Should that change?
I don't know. Probably not, to be honest. But it's fun to theorize about that.
It is.
Just have fun
I've
with
kind
it.
of thought about it because I was born in Germany. And so I ran for governor of California. And I'm like, it is interesting. Not saying that anybody would actually vote for me for president, but it is interesting that, you know, you could be born with a different color of skin or born in a different location. But I'm kind of like, is there a potential equivalence between racism of the color of your skin and, well, you're born in a different country, therefore you can't do something?
Interesting. I would hope not. I mean, I feel like you never really meet people that will openly, I've never met someone at least, that will openly say, I'm judging someone based on.
Oh, yeah, no, of course.
So like, I feel like it's not like a huge thing, but at the end of the day, it does make sense that you want someone who has experienced culture here, who grew up here.
That's a good point.
But if you moved here, I know you moved here when you're pretty young. So,
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
18 months
it's like,
old, yeah.
right. So I mean, it doesn't. There should be a rule that like if you moved here when you were a child, you know, and you got to experience it, or even if you didn't, as long as you like truly have. If there's a way you could put someone on a lie detector test and know for sure if they really have the best interest at heart,
right,
that would be better than most people from the United States who are present anyway. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I guess. It's hard to say who would be the best person at any given election cycle. And a lot of it is just media attention. I mean, really, we would be better served to just have like a super good business person be in charge of the economy. And that should have nothing to do with all the social issues. Why do we have the same person deciding social issues that's deciding the economy? Those are two completely different things. You can't have the best of both. It just doesn't make any sense.
So you're almost thinking somebody should be responsible for, hey, look, here's our welfare, our housing assistance, our Social Security, or Medicare, and then somebody else should run the rest of the budget like a business, so to speak.
It would have to be structured in a way that would work, because that would be very difficult to do. If it can be structured correctly, I do think that could actually work better, especially in the modern day and age. It used to not be so much that way. Back in the day, you know, like 150 years ago, there wasn't really so much of a problem with that because the best people wanted to be in those positions. There wasn't the internet to cause all the drama, and people just typically voted because they wanted to have the right issues be done better. Now people tend to vote for, what, in my opinion, issues that the federal government should have absolutely nothing to do with, because that's a distraction from their actual job, which is to make sure our lives are better.
What do you think will be a bigger weight in voting this election, the economy or those single issue voter priorities in terms of swinging who wins?
Interesting. I mean, I hate to say it. I hope it's the economy, because that's if we don't fix the national debt problem right now, we're going to come to a point which anyone who is in finance, like yourself, you know, we're going to default on the debt.
Eventually.
Like you can't just keep racking up debt forever. People aren't going to want to buy U.S. Treasury bonds anymore. At some point, it will fail. If it's not fixed quickly, and it may not be possible at this point to really have a soft landing, we're going to be not only screwed, we're going to be screwed in such a way that generations will feel that. And all for what? It's not like they built up some massive safety structure. I mean, already even look at the oil reserves, for example. Already that's mostly drained from the Biden administration. Look at what have they built with that $33 trillion in debt that's sustainable long term. All of it has been on short-term spending stuff, most of which could have been done way more efficiently.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for example, I'm supposed to, in theory, be for the military, which is ridiculous. That's kind of like the way they've structured that issue. But I don't support anything I'm supposed to support. I just look at it and say, what's the best thing, regardless of what should I say, what shouldn't I don't care. I'm just going to say the truth, which is that you shouldn't be spending $1 trillion on the military per year when every country has the ability to wipe another country off the planet in a few seconds. If it gets to the point where you have to use your full force, you're already at that point where you're not going to need your full force because you're going to be on the next level, which is, I'm not going to say the word because we're on YouTube. They may demonetize the video, but you know what it is. Like if they drop the big ones, what does it matter that you have a $50 million attack helicopter? You know, like what's that going to do?
Is there an argument that, I mean, some people make this argument that, well, if we spend money in all the different areas that we're in, so whether it's in trying to stabilize the Red Sea, which I guess that didn't work out recently, or Israel and Gaza, the money, I mean, we're basically financing their war, the Israeli incursion.
That's insane.
We're financing the Ukrainian defense on the Eastern Bloc. And I mean, the foreign aid that we send to every country from Egypt to European countries is I mean, vast. What's your take? Is there a chance that without that sort of spending, we get closer to that the big one problem versus just keep spending the money and maintain the status quo?
So the way I look at it is every single country that would not get to the level where you have to go to the big ones, which I wish I could just say the word. Come on, YouTube, like fix that. Come on, what are you doing? I don't want to demonetize your video. I mean, maybe you don't care, but whatever. But the point is, if it gets to that point, there's like maybe, I don't know the exact number, but there's a certain number of countries that have that capability. All of the rest of them, the United States could easily be with 10% of the power or less. So it's like, I do think it's important to have enough strength to prevent that. I don't think it requires $1 trillion a year while you're $33 trillion in debt, because if we get to the point where the US dollar is extremely unstable, that's way more dangerous in terms of getting to the big one than anything else by a magnitude of many times over.
So the highest priority is maintaining strength in the dollar so you prevent losing the leverage that you have in the first place. Could dollar is supporting companies like Boeing, which I guess they're really good at keeping the doors on.
I don't know if you saw the news.
Hey, by the way, we just launched our new website for HouseHack, our real estate startup. Learn more at the househack.com website. Not only can you submit real estate deals to us, but you'll also be able to check the investor tab where we are putting all of our updates in the same format that you all have been loving over at ehack.com. We've got it all linked down below to make it easy for you. What about cryptocurrencies? Like, could that protect our, help solve some of the issues that we face with our economy and our spending problems?
Absolutely. I mean, cryptocurrency is the only way right now to tell the government F you economically. It's the only way where you can go around being so dependent on the decisions of bureaucrats who often only have their best interest in mind. So I think cryptocurrency will definitely experience not only many more bull runs, it's probably going to be the type of thing where if you're holding it now, you will get extraordinarily wealthy from it. If you're holding at least, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you're holding just a decent amount, like enough, you know, like I don't want to put an exact number on it, but if you
what's your price target?
Well, what's the exact amount? But yeah, I do think people who are investing in cryptocurrency in a serious way now will see significant returns. And that's because it's going to provide value to a lot of people, and already is, but it's going to get better. And as the governments get worse, which they are doing, more corrupt, worse at managing the economy, it's going to be more important than ever that we do it ourselves, and crypto is the way to do that.
Do you think there's a way the United States could actually be in a very strong economy come around the election? Stock market up, real estate market maybe didn't crash, and people have jobs, and there's low joblessness still. Is there a chance then that spread between the low sentiment we have now for the economy flips to positive sentiment, which means do people vote for Biden in that swing?
Interesting. I mean, the question is, how much longer can a stick man be propped up? The U.S. economy is being held up by fake legs. Can it hold up for another year? Maybe. Can it hold up for another 5 years? Maybe. Can it hold up for 10 years? I don't think that's possible. I really don't.
Oh, so you think there's an
drastic changes.
Implosion within the next 10 years because of the debt?
Oh, of course. There's no doubt about it. There will be an implosion probably within the next 10 years, probably before then. There's a few big things that are happening.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a lot of companies are going to have to restructure the way their loans are at a much higher rate now. Yeah. Some of them will go out of business. A lot of them maybe. How are they going to be able to survive with such a higher interest rate all of a sudden? I mean, it's not a good thing at all when you go from 2% to 8, 9, 10%,
right, in
like what, a year? I mean, it's not sustainable. I think even if the economy balances out a little bit temporarily, people understand that. People have a feeling. People understand where it's going. It's already gotten so much worse. Biden has the ability to win, technically speaking, but it would only be if his opponent, which is most likely going to be Donald Trump, really, really bombs. And he seems to be running a smart campaign strategy right now, which is not being too out there, right? Even though it's annoying at times because it's interesting to see the debates and stuff. But I feel like his campaign strategy is a little bit smarter this election cycle, and that will bode well when it comes time for the election to roll around.
That's Trump's strategy?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better this election cycle. He doesn't seem to be, but then again, the media obviously will play a role in that, and they're going to ramp things up as everyone knows that.
It seems like his best advertising right now are all of the attacks against him. So all of the lawsuits and, whether it's Maine or the Colorado ballot issues, every time, or even, when he has his mugshot, I mean, that was a big fundraising moment for him. Time, which it's interesting because it seems like no matter how much he's attacked by the existing government or the mainstream media, it actually just helps him. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, I don't think it has too much of an impact on moving the needle. People just want to have a good economy right now. People don't care as much about the social issues that they did in the past at this point when you can't afford to keep your family healthy and eating. It's people stop caring so much about
top
that.
priority is inflation.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it shifting a little bit more, if there's enough manipulation. But one thing a lot of people don't realize that happened in the last election cycle, the way people vote was changed drastically almost overnight. And they
during COVID.
Right. Yeah. They took advantage of that. What I think a lot of people should look at is the fact that there's a cult in the United States right now. There's a cult that seriously has the intention to change the culture of the United States forever. I call it the woke cult. The woke cult is
it's a good phrase.
It's a good phrase. Woke cult. They are in a position right now, and there are many Democrats who are amazing people that just want to have a better, like some of them are confused, maybe some of them aren't. It just depends. I mean, there's Republicans that are confused too. I mean, I'm definitely not Republican. I'm definitely not Democrat. I just want good people to win. And that sounds cliche. Yeah. I mean, it's a cool thing to say. Oh, you're so cool. No, I mean, anyone can say that. But to actually stick to it and vote based on that is a little difficult at times because you can get swept up in everything. But at the end of the day, the way they changed that, and because there's a cult, here's something that happened in a bunch of households across America. Parents who are part of that, I think we can call it a cult. I think it's fair to say that. So it's basically their religion. They care about that more than anything else in their life, besides maybe their family. They chose to get their kids to vote. All you have to do, you get your kid a mail-in ballot. You can fill it out for them.
Sure.
Yeah. And then technically that's legal. And if you're part of a cult, you're going to care a lot more about doing that. And forcing a lot of those kids over 18 wouldn't have voted unless their parents made them because of the way the voting structure changed. That's why there were so many more votes than the election before. That's why we saw Joe Biden really winning. I mean, if that didn't happen, also Donald Trump did make the mistake of telling people not to do that and not really taking advantage of it. So he absolutely needs to take some blame for that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that right there unless there's a strategy put in place to make it so that it's not just very one-sided when it comes to the mail-in ballots, it's going to be difficult for Trump to win. I think he's going to do that though, and I think it will succeed, but we'll have to see. I mean, it's a scary time because of how many changes have been implemented. I mean, they basically, I think that's as close to stealing the election as you can possibly get.
Is the mail-in ballots.
Is the mail-in ballots. Is changing the way votes are and using that in a way where technically you're not breaking the rules, but you just change them so that you're not breaking them. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. It's a very complicated.
Do you think Trump can leverage encouraging people to use mail-in ballots as well to maybe balance that out? Of
course. I mean, if Trump is able to really capitalize on that, I think it's going to be an easy election for him to win. Will he win the popular vote? I don't know. I think the popular vote will be close. But in terms of the Electoral College, a smart strategy where you pick and choose to run effective campaigns to get more mail-in balloting in those states will probably win. I mean, I think he'll probably win in that situation based on the current polling data.
Got to get Republicans to do the early voting.
Are you a fan of the Electoral College, or is it something that you think is outdated?
I think the Electoral College is one of the only things protecting the country right now. In a perfect country where you didn't have mass illegal immigration, where a huge percentage of the time those people come in not understanding the culture, not understanding what's best for the future, and even if they can't vote, their kids can. And that's part of the system, right? But when you have millions of people who have a completely different culture coming into a country, and then they're raised in a different way with a different value system, which is not necessarily bad, right? But at the end of the day, that can lead to more votes for one party than the other. If that didn't happen, if there was a perfect system, then maybe we wouldn't need the Electoral College. But because of what they're doing right now, I feel like it's crucial. It's holding the country together, because then you can't just have a bunch of illegal immigrants go into one state and flip the entire country. Like if California is experiencing that big time right now, if the Electoral College didn't exist, they would ramp up even more illegal immigration into California and then say, look, now it's easy for us to win because that's already why the popular vote has changed so much over the last 30 years.
Yeah, that is interesting, because California's already maxed out essentially on its Electoral College going to the Democratic candidate. But now if you had an extra 2 million voters, let's say all of a sudden in California, you could swing the popular vote. So that's an interesting comparison, that the Electoral College could minimize that.
This election is going to be interesting because we have, assuming Trump wins the primary, we're going to have two candidates that have already been president. So people have already seen them in office for 4 years. How many people who vote for Trump or Biden do you think are voting because they support the candidate versus just opposing the other candidate?
That's a good question. I feel like this election will be less so. There'll still be a lot of that, obviously. I feel like people are familiar so much with the two candidates now that it's not going to be as much of the, I hate the other guy, so I'm voting for this. It's more just like, I want these policies, so I'm going to vote for this person. I feel like it'll be more like that still, though. Mostly, yes, it'll be, I hate the other person. I mean, it just depends, I guess. It would be nice if someone even more, I mean, Joe Biden's a terrible president. I don't think I've never met someone in real life, right, who says, oh, I love Joe Biden, he's the best president ever. Maybe they exist somewhere. I don't meet those people. I don't know who does, but I think if Joe Biden, if someone even less popular, like even worse, even more hated than him is put as the nominee, which is a possibility, then that could lead to a really hate-filled election where that is the primary motivating factor. Joe Biden, though people are familiar with him, it's not as much going to be.
There's this rumor that's been circulating that, which has happened in prior elections. I can't remember exactly which one, but basically, even in the primaries, as late as like June or July, switch the candidate right at the end and throw in like a Gavin Newsom or something like that. Do you think something like that could happen?
I heard you talking about that some on your show, but Gavin Newsom at the end of the day is perhaps one of the, on a policy level, least effective politicians of all time.
I ran against him in Vegas,
I know. So good job.
I can't disagree.
I was rooting for you.
Thank you.
And I think you had a smart strategy too, because you didn't try to play it super like, oh, I'm on this side versus this side. You're just like, hey, common sense, which again, like technically that's like the easy thing to do. I feel like now it's not cool anymore, but it's still right, whether it's cool or not anymore. And at the end of the day, if you had one, California would have been better.
Oh, thank you.
So I hope if you run again, I really hope you win. Pull off a Schwarzenegger there.
There we go. And California needs a little love. Yes. But I guess on the topic of them flipping, maybe even somebody else, like is this going to be do you think this is a Biden-Trump rematch, or Are we going to get juked here at the end?
This is what I think people who are president, you get to have 400 or more servants that are helping you 24/7. There's someone to do every single thing for you. You get the best food, you get the best places, you get constant media attention, which can be fun sometimes, right?
Bully pulpit,
Yeah, so you get it's a really fun job in some ways. Now there's a lot of hard things to it. It's stressful, right?
Yeah.
But I believe Joe Biden very much wants to keep being in that position because he gets
fair.
all of the nice amenities from
Kind of cool, yeah.
I don't think Joe Biden wants to be president as much as he wants all of the things that come with it, the benefits of it.
Wow.
Because he has a lot of people in his administration that are doing a lot of the work for him anyway. So he just gets to have a nice, easy vacation, which is pathetic and absolutely dreadful for the country because we don't have a strong leader who's doing a good job. And maybe it would be even worse if he was trying to do things. I don't know. But the point is, I believe he will try to win again because of that.
Okay.
And so I think if he's trying, he'll probably win just based on all historical data and the fact that there's no clear candidate that could take over in his place.
Biden would win out of the Democrats.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he'll win out of the Democrats.
Got it.
I think most likely.
What happened with Ivanka and Kushner? Why do they seem so distanced from Donald Trump now?
I think at the end of the day, both of them don't really have as much of America's best interest at heart as other people he could hire would have.
Oh, wow.
As a familial level, that's why they got in those positions. I really hope he learned that Ivanka, Jared shouldn't have important positions in the administration if he wins, probably when he wins, hopefully, right? And I do think there's a couple people that maybe could even be better as president than Donald Trump, but none of them have a chance to win. Of the people who have a chance to win, Donald Trump is by far the best option because he already has the experience of multiple failures, multiple successes. He won't do the failures, hopefully, next time, and he will do successes. Hiring, I think, one of the most important things. I've always said the smartest thing a president could do would be, instead of hiring from the pool that's there, literally, that was an interesting way to pronounce that word, literally. But
Andrew Tate, literally. Yeah.
Maybe I watched Andrew Tate beforehand. I don't know. But if you just make applications come in, if you
Hire
field
from the public,
applications,
basically.
hire from the public, and literally find the best people and hire them. Don't care about anyone who's like a couple people you need that have had experience, right? To help guide the way.
Yeah, like a Rudy. Everybody needs a Rudy.
So you're saying drain the swamp.
Poor
though.
Rudy, poor Rudy. Yeah, and Trump didn't do as much as he could. Really, truly, let everyone apply. Be careful, screen people, do a good job, make sure people have experience, make sure people are smart, but don't hire just because they've done something or been in a position or know someone. Really hire the best. And if that is done, and you don't have the same group of people, it's like a gang, a mafia in charge, then our country will get significantly better. And I have faith that at least to some degree, Donald Trump will be capable of putting together a cabinet that doesn't have those people next time. It's hard, but it's possible. Including Ivanka and Jared, I really hope they are not part of the administration in any serious way.
Are you in support of having like an age cap for presidency? And if so, what would that number be? Or
6'9".
Yes.
Nice.
Okay.
I mean, it's
No further questions.
like if we do see someone who is really good and who's older, there are exceptions, right? But at the end of the day, I do think you'd be more likely to have good candidates in the future. Donald Trump being the obvious person in question here because he is over that age.
Right.
So like, if you made it that way right now, he couldn't win. Then you say who would win? And I don't think it would be fair to say, okay, we're going to change the law to make it so Trump can't run or can't win. And he is very vibrant. He doesn't seem like he's old right now, like Biden does. So you can't exclude Trump by changing the law. But if you change it for the future, and there's no one excluded automatically from that, then I do think that could be a good way.
Like at the beginning of a president's second term, you change a rule or something like
that. Yeah.
Is Epstein still alive? I saw a tweet of yours.
Interesting.
Actually,
implying that
within the last 24 hours, I saw a tweet that Epstein's alive, as well as a tweet of proof that he was murdered.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what do you think actually happened to him?
So the tweet about him still being alive is Megyn Kelly on her show said that she is going to allow us to hear from Epstein himself. So it seemed like, okay, she's hinting he's still alive. I personally don't believe he's still alive. There's a possibility of it, I do believe he was murdered. And I believe very powerful people did it, which if you don't believe that, I mean, it's possible not to believe it, right? But if you look at the camera evidence, the cameras going off, if you look at the fact that there's so many people who, if he stayed alive, had a very strong possibility of going to prison for the rest of their lives.
Sure.
If you're going to go to the prison for the rest of your life, that's an extremely strong motivating factor to take someone's life. And I am fully understanding of the fact that they're capable of doing that. They had the motivation to do it. And all the circumstances surrounding it are so weird, unusual. Most likely, that is exactly what happened. And if you're Ghislaine Maxwell right now, you shouldn't feel safe at all. She doesn't know as much as he did.
Interesting.
And she seems to have been silenced to some degree, more so than him. I don't know what tactic was used to make that happen. But yeah, I mean, I do believe there's technically a small possibility he's still alive. I'd say it's very, very, very small. And it is fun. It is fun though to speculate on it. I mean, like you'll see, like if I make a tweet about it, it's because it's interesting, not necessarily because there's a high probability of that happening.
Is that the strategy on X or old Twitter? Like it's fun speculation. Like how do you balance fun spec from news? How does that work?
It can be. I think at the end of the day, the amount of community note posts that I get compared to Elon Musk, for example, it's around the same.
Okay,
I've gotten
a good comparison. I've been compared to Elon
probably
Musk.
less than mainstream media though.
I get I have a significantly higher credibility rating than the mainstream media. Obviously, if you're posting breaking news right after it happens constantly, you're not going to get everything right. But the vast majority, I have a very, very, very high level of understanding that if I post accurate information consistently, that's going to be the best strategy long-term to making sure people are happy and want to come to you for information. You have to make sure that is the case. But at the same time, I'm not going to be afraid from saying, I believe this crazy thing may be true. We have to look into it more, because if you say, I believe this crazy thing may be true 10 times, it's going to be true a few of those times. So you have to spec. And if you don't say any of those 10 times, then you're not going to be bringing attention to something important for those times.
A different perspective, exactly. Now, for the Epstein situation, the Clintons' names came up a lot. Hillary Clinton's been trending for like the last 48 hours, and today's, interestingly, J6 we're filming this on.
That's funny time.
Yeah. What do you think about Hillary? Apparently, the comment that came up in the last documents was that Maxwell went to Hillary's daughter's wedding as opposed to going to a deposition, and she pretended to be sick for, implying this connection between the two. There's also this allegation from Virginia that Bill Clinton stormed into Vanity Fair threatening them not to write stories on Jeffrey Epstein. What's going on here with the Clintons?
So I believe that is something he would do. I mean, if there are cameras at the same level there are cameras now at the time that happened, I feel like we would have footage of it. Because there's no footage, you just have to take word of mouth. I mean, the Clintons have had a lot of people losing their life who are connected to them. They've had so many strange things happening to them. If it's a couple things here or there, you can say it's a coincidence. When it's that overwhelming, you just have to face the truth, which is that those two people are horrendous individuals who have their self-interest in mind a lot of the times, and also just seem to be motivated by pure evil at other times. Wow. And that's a strong statement, right? But Bill Clinton in the Oval Office was bringing in essentially hookers. I mean, maybe you don't want to call them hookers, but he was bringing in women. We know about Monica Lewinsky. There was many more, obviously. Like, we're not stupid. If anyone who's bringing in women to the Oval Office, when you have a wife that's also living in that same house and getting caught and then lying bold-faced about it, obviously there's so much more under the covers, pun intended, than what we're being told.
That's like the photo of Bill sitting at the Oval Office desk.
Picture of Bill at the Oval Office.
Yeah, there are two people in this photo.
It's funny, right? But it's also horrific. I mean, we're talking about, with Epstein, proven over and over and over again through these documents and through what's been investigated, these are underage girls. It's not people over the age of 18. I mean, you can say, oh, he's a bad person if it's over the age of 18. When it becomes under the age of 18, when you're talking about children, that goes from bad person to truly evil, despicable person. And if you don't think, with all the flights he took on Epstein's plane, if you don't think with all of the already sexual drama surrounding him, that he was not engaged at all in that, if when he's trying to silence the media, I mean, connect the dots, right? I mean, I believe he was part of it. Hillary obviously was in on it, knew everything along the way. She was named as a witness in the documents along with other people. Even being named as a witness, I mean, that's right there, scary stuff. I mean, that she saw things happen that were bad and helped to cover them up. Whether it's threats, violence, whatever it is, that's scary stuff. And thank God she wasn't the president of the United States. That would have been, it would have been awful. I mean, would she have been better than Biden on a policy level? Who knows? He's so awful. I mean, I think anyone would, but still, I mean, on a social level, the things she would have done, the damage she would have caused would have been irreparable. She would have destroyed the United States.
Wow.
More than Joe Biden.
I mean, people thought she would have been like a continuation of Barack Obama. Did you think that would be different then? I guess that also depends on if you liked Obama.
Maybe, I mean, maybe on a policy level, some of the things would have been similar. There would have been more war. There would have been more solely on the level of causing conflict on a global scale. I think it would have been worse. I think we would have had less stability, less safety. Hillary Clinton is one of the most evil people that's ever walked the face of the planet. So putting her in that position would be a suicide. It would be awful. So yeah, it's scary stuff.
Hey, by the way, if you want to watch myself and Mikey not only react to clips from these different interviews that we do, but also join us at the Meet Kevin and Mikey podcast, click the link down below and subscribe to the Meet Kevin and Mikey podcast channel. Link down below. So interesting that we didn't have a Russia invasion during the previous election cycles here, or the Israeli counterattack to the Hamas attack as severe under a previous Republican president. That is something that's been coming up a lot. Do you think that is just a coincidence, or do you think that's potentially because of the nature of the way Trump's Oval Office operated versus, say, Biden?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. At the end of the day, Putin he's human, right? He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make decisions that oftentimes go against the best interest of his country. I don't think it was the smart move to do that. I think he shouldn't have done that, right? But at the end of the day, if Trump was in office, it wouldn't have happened.
No.
He had enough respect and enough fear, healthy fear, that he wouldn't have done that. He didn't do it. There's a reason why Trump is one of the least war presidents we've ever had in the history of the country. And that is because of the way he led and the way he talked to people. And I mean, look at him on The Apprentice. Like he knows what he does a good job of talking to people. He does a good job.
Everybody's afraid of him.
Yeah. I mean,
you're fired.
You're fired. You're nuked.
Yeah,
Who's next?
Like, I actually, before, I think it was like 2014. I don't remember exactly the year, but it was a good bit before Trump even announced he was going to run for office. I watched The Apprentice and I said, that guy's going to be president.
Oh, wow.
I feel like that guy could be a good president. And he was actually, I feel like the Trump from then would have been an even better president, because he was even, I don't know, I feel like he was even better back then.
They feel like different people, I will say. They feel like very different
it's weird.
people.
Like, I don't know, but he still did a good job, right? But I feel like hopefully Trump will be his old self again. I think a lot of people who were influencing him in the wrong way threw him off his first term for so many things. His second term, I feel like he'll be his old self, hopefully, again. And if he is, it's going to be tremendous for the country.
So you think it wasn't so much a Trump issue, term one, it was more his staff?
Oh, I mean, that was a huge part of it. And I'm not going to let Trump off the hook either.
Sure.
I mean, he let them influence him. He hired them, right? He could have done better. And one of the reasons it's important to say that is because he needs to make sure, and I'm going to be pushing for this, I'm going to be trying to influence it to the degree I can. He needs to make sure that if he does win again, when he wins again, he'll do a better job.
Wow. Do you think he committed an insurrection on J6?
No. I think not even close. I mean, he didn't commit an insurrection any more than Bernie Sanders caused people to get shot at the baseball game. You can't control, first of all, what other people do. And it wasn't an insurrection. In fact, it was significantly less intense than what we saw with the BLM riots for way longer of a period of time, with way more people losing their lives compared to really one. And it was one of the people who was entering the Capitol.
Ashley Babbitt reference.
Yeah, Ashley Babbitt. Yep. They at first, it's like there were some people there who were like acting kind of crazy, right? But after that point had broken through, once they were inside the Capitol building, people said, for example, that there was bodily fluids that were spread on the Capitol. There wasn't. There's no proof of that. No one's ever shown evidence of that. People said that they were calling officers racial slurs. Again, with all the video, all the cameras, all the people taking their own footage, not a single bit of evidence that ever happened, not even a credible witness saying it did. So they lied about it in a huge way.
It is so bizarre because I remember covering the insurrection live. It was one of my longest live streams, like 10 hours long or something like that.
It was scary to watch.
It was very scary to watch from the perspective that
they showed.
Exactly. And then seeing over time some of the ceiling footage come out of people walking down the hallway with some of the officers, and the officers are opening doors for them. I felt like I was watching two different worlds. Like what I saw on that day was very different from what I see in the surveillance footage. And it's very conflicting. It's like, how do you reconcile that?
And the other point is, if Trump wanted to try to overthrow the government, I don't think he could succeed no matter what. That's an extremely difficult task that no one
for
could
certifying
really
the election. And his argument is that, as I know you know, but for viewers to remember, is that Pence could have stopped the certification. Should Pence have stopped the certification?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most important thing was to have it in a position where they're not allowed to cheat, where they're not allowed to change the mail-in ballots. You should have done it beforehand. You shouldn't wait till after. They needed to stop the cheating from happening before. Once you've already let them do it, if you play a pickup basketball game, someone's fouling you the whole game, and you say afterwards, well, you fouled me the whole game, you didn't win. Like you call it at the beginning. That's what I think should have happened.
Do you think there was a significant amount of election fraud in the last election?
Define fraud. I mean,
or is it just the mail-in ballots?
There's a lot of manipulation. Okay. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of, I think they didn't necessarily break the rules, right? But they changed the rules so that they could do that without breaking.
Oh, so specifically around the mail-in ballots.
I'm not going to rule it out. I could certainly see there's a lot of evidence that it may have happened. I'm not going to rule it out at all. But at the end of the day, if Trump really wanted to overthrow the government, he's not a murderer. You would have to take people's lives to do that. You can't no overthrowing of a government has ever happened without a lot of people in positions of power losing their life. In order for that to happen, or being thrown in prison, losing their life, has to be all of that. Trump doesn't have the capability to murder people or even order other people to do so in that capacity. He would never do that. If he really wanted to, he could have tried a significantly, by magnitude of like 100 times more intense effort to do that. He didn't actually try to overthrow the government. And I mean, could he have handled some things better? Sure. But at the end of the day, the way the media is portraying it, even still at this point, is ridiculous. And it's only because they want to use that to try to get votes in the next election. That's it. That's their motivation.
You've commented about Bill Gates using AI to try to interfere with elections around the world this year.
That's going to happen. No, he's going to do it.
Could you elaborate on that? And then also mention if that's going to happen in the United States or just in foreign countries?
Oh, it's going to happen in multiple countries. And I mean, I hope the capabilities aren't strong enough yet. We don't know a lot of what's really happening behind the scenes with AI. It's probably scarier than we even know. Even Elon Musk is warning about it. But they can easily propagandize millions of people using AI. They can target you based on specific things that can emotionally trigger you. And that's already happened a lot even without AI. But with AI, the capability to do that is scary. And so his ability to manipulate people, even just like, it's not even a conspiracy theory. Look at who he's funding. He's giving millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to these media groups that are already trying to propagandize people. They're using AI more and more to target specific emotional traits in people. So even without having any, I think it's way worse than we're even able to see right now, based on multiple factors. But even without that, if you just look at what you can clearly see in plain day, he's already using AI in a way to manipulate elections. And so it's that needs to be stopped. I mean,
well, it's almost like identifying the what is AI is one of the challenges. And so I think there was even one tweet from you. It was, do you support her message? It was this one with basically a girl in a track outfit here, it looks
Yes.
like, and then the text "not a dude," which
funny.
is interesting. It's
and
funny.
it got
Like,
community noted. Yeah, it's apparently it's not. It's not
apparently
real.
it was AI.
But you
I
can't tell. It
I
looks
didn't
real.
know. I thought it was real, and I
Yeah.
actually thought it was like, okay, like there are a lot of women who are actually supporting this message right now because women don't believe it's fair to have to fight it. I think it was just the boxing league or one of the boxing groups that is now allowing male-born transgender women to box biological females, and so this is like the counter revolution to that. But I had no idea that was AI.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
So how do we solve that? Like, how do we trust anything anymore?
Yeah, I mean, there are some technologies that allow you to do that, but that's the thing. It's going to be hard to trust anything. And another thing I'll say is that I want to speak on this for just briefly. We can go back to AI, but right now I think that parents need to step up. There's a lot of parents who are sitting on the sidelines, and if their daughter is forced to compete against people who have a significant advantage of them because they were born as a male,
Right.
that's not fair. I have a daughter. I hope she's going to like sports. I like sports. I think I'm sure she'll enjoy them. Maybe not. Maybe she will. We'll see. But if she has to compete in that capacity against someone who's born as a male, I will run on that field. I am not going to be okay with that. I will not sit on the sidelines and watch her be discriminated against like that. And the way these people really just want to hurt our culture and hurt women is because they're not pushing for a separate league for people.
Right.
They want them to compete with women.
Why is that so odd to think that there should just be a separate league? Like, hey, if you were born a male and now you're taking hormone replacement or whatever, and you want to identify as a female or be a female, whatever, have a separate league.
And well, the thing is, I think a lot of the people who are doing this wouldn't get that same feeling. Like they probably get like a sick pleasure out of beating women. I'm sure a lot of them do. And I don't think they would get that same feeling. Like they're like, haha, like it's disgusting that people are allowing that to happen. And if there's a separate league, it probably, I mean, first of all, no one would watch it. I mean, why would anyone watch that? It's not going to be entertaining, really. I mean, it's not going to be the best athletes in any capacity. Just statistically speaking, it's almost impossible to happen. Like, for example, like the swimmer Leo Thomas, or however you say her name, she or he, whatever you want to say, right?
Sure.
They were, when it came to the men's meet, they were really low down, right? In the hundreds, like really bad.
Men's meet, to be clear.
Like,
Swimming
men's
competition.
Yeah. So competing against men, no chance. Competing against women, now you're number one. So like if there was a separate league, it wouldn't be very entertaining. So I don't know. I mean, I that's the only solution that would not require. I mean, you can't have women having to compete against people born as men. So you have to do something else. If they want to do that, I don't care. Go do it. But you can't have that.
It is interesting. I have, I have now two twin girls. They're 2.5 months old. It almost feels like how things are now. Do I even encourage them to go into sports? It's kind of like, who was it? Gary Vaynerchuk. He says, why would I get into politics if I know I can't win the game? Because he wasn't born in America. So he said, well, I can't be president. So why bother at all? Could that same thing be happening to women now who are already of competing age across the country who say, you know what, why bother if I can't win because I wasn't born a man who's identifying as a woman? I don't know. And then of course, the counter argument is, well, men who are transitioning are meeting certain biological thresholds based on hormone levels or whatever. And so should they therefore then be qualified or eligible? I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point. I would say no one should leave their daughter out of sports. Fight. They want to win. And by win, they want to destroy our culture. They want to replace it with a religion of wokeness. That's their goal. And if we allow them to win without fighting, then they're going to make it even worse after that. It's at the point now where it's really our last chance to kind of save the United States in the capacity that it's been in the past, where it's been an awesome country where you want to live. If we don't save it now, it won't happen. So fight for it. That's what I would say to anyone out there who has a daughter and is worried about that.
Got it. And do you think immigration now, clearly we've got a border crisis, is this amplifying the problem that we face in America?
Oh, I mean, it's massively amplifying it. When you look right now, there are more, this is an important stat. You can't argue against this. It's around 6 times as many illegal immigrants coming in per month than under President Trump, even for some of his worst months in terms of illegal immigration. There are more people consistently coming in per month illegally than there are births of citizens of the United States.
This is like the encounters statistic, right? Births versus encounters.
I mean, how they measure it also, they could be underestimating it.
It's so interesting how because they came up with the phrase encounters during COVID, which was while Trump was still president. And there was a spike right after Biden came in. We were looking at that. We thought, this is so interesting. I think Trump was actually campaigning on the idea that if Biden wins, there'll be a surge of migrants who attempt to come to the borders.
3 million, yeah.
And we just had this summer, I think it was either the end of June or end of July, over 400,000 Venezuelans who came here were granted amnesty, which is probably twice the actual number, since more people are probably applying, suggesting they were here. So it's probably an understated number, and the reality is actually higher. Do you think that all of those individuals should just be sent back, or how do you handle it?
I mean, is there anything else? Do I want to do that? No. I mean, is that the only way to potentially solve it? Probably. Like, what else can you do? You can't. If you look at right now, many countries in South America, there's a lot of awesome countries there, like that are cool. Maybe you'd enjoy living there, but they're different than the United States.
A lot poorer.
A lot of them are poor. There's a lot more corruption. Oftentimes, there's a lot more crime. There's a lot of things about them that are very different. A lot of those things are in negative ways. And if our country just becomes an extension of South America, it will be different. And I don't think it will be a difference that most people who like the United States as it is will enjoy. Because if they did, they would move there. They would go to those countries. And so it's scary that we may be forced to completely have our country change forever and not be able to do anything about it. And the more it changes, the easier it is to keep changing it. Because if you do come over illegally, you're going to be okay with more people coming sometimes. I mean, I hope that changes. And there are some people who came over illegally and like, oh, I don't want any more people coming. They're like, we're good now. But, or people who came legally and say, I don't want people coming illegally because that's not fair. But I had to wait, right? So there's those things. But at some point you have to say, if you could have talented people coming, you can have a fair amount coming in each year. But if there keeps being this many illegal immigrants, you're going to have to shut down legal immigration too, and try to shut down legal immigration just to try to catch up with deporting a lot of the people who are here. Is that nice to do? No. Do I want to be in a situation where you have to deport people? No. I mean, those are people who are acting in their own best interest. Many of us, if we were them, probably would do the same thing, right? It's smart to do that if you're them. But that still doesn't make it okay. I think if you live in a country in South America, make your country better. You can do that. Become in a position of power. Take away some of the corruption. Help to stimulate the economy. There are things you can do there. Don't give up on your country and come to someone else's
chainsaws,
country.
like Javier Milei.
Yeah. That's right.
Just give everyone. Okay, here we go. We'll give every single person.
You get a chainsaw.
Everyone gets a chainsaw. Send Oprah down there with chainsaw. Oh, don't send her down there. That's actually kind of scary. But
do you think legal immigration is too difficult? Should be made easier? Do you think it's too easy? Should be made more difficult? Or do you think it's right where it needs to be?
That's a good point. I mean, probably a little bit. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, you would have people from all different cultures coming to the United States at a very small level that doesn't change the culture of the United States, but allows us to see, new people and new ideas, and that can be very healthy. I think it should be less than it is now, especially because of the amount of legal immigrants who have already come in. Like, at some point, you have to say, all right, like, we can't sustain this. Even property values, for example, that's impacted pretty substantially. I mean, people should be able to afford a starter home. They can't right now. Very few people can.
What do you think about that? Is that going to require sort of the great reset of where you get this dollar collapse and everybody has a chance maybe to buy again because we have massive deflation and joblessness? Or what does it take to actually get to that affordability again? Do people just need to make more money?
Yeah, I mean, and part of it too is look at houses. I mean, people have higher quality of life in our homes now. We have better appliances. So, I mean, it has to be a little bit more expensive, right? To have all this technology, all the luxuries that we have. But it's gone up like 500% compared to where it should be if you just followed the chart from before like the 1950s. So it has to crash. I mean, you can't sustain that. The only thing stopping it from crashing now, in my opinion, and you may know more about this than me, you're like real estate expert, right?
Oh,
so, but in my opinion, one of the only things stopping it from crashing is right now it costs a lot to build. Oh, yeah. So like, I think if more people can build cheaper, then we'll probably see the housing market as a whole crashing a substantial amount, if not fast, then at least a slow, gradual decline, which
slow
we're in the middle
bleed
of right now. Right.
Oh, okay.
That could. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be a big crash, or do you think it'll be a slow bleed?
I mean, I agree with you. Is that the core problem is there are just a lack of homes where people have jobs,
right?
And then you look at a state like California, where I mean, you're almost buying real estate in California is almost protected from going down in value because they build so little. This is one of the things when I ran for governor, I thought we need to build more, like streamline the permitting. So and they could be in even areas outside of the large cities, but streamlining building is absolutely key. Yeah, you're seeing that in areas like Texas and Vegas, and you're seeing prices actually slowly come down a little bit because of that. So you might be exactly right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I know you built one of the most like awesome business. I mean, awesome, maybe you could use that word to describe. You built an awesome business. Like I don't know. Do you think you could have done that today? Like, could you have started from the ground built what you built as successfully and as fast as you did it?
I mean, now I think everything takes longer. Right. I think, it's, a lot more, there'd be a lot more patience required now, especially like everything is so much more expensive now. And I don't think wages have really kept up unless you almost need like an AI computer engineering job to really, it's like, make your own AI to pay for some of the housing you see, especially in NorCal. Gosh, it's gotten expensive.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, and also we're coming towards a point where the only thing that maybe could save the country is also one of the scariest things for the country, which is AI and robots really taking over most of the jobs in the United States. That, like, how does that not happen?
Oh, wow.
Self-driving cars aren't far away. What about even like jobs like cooking? Can a robot, or already, if you have enough money, you can make a robot that can cook at the level of a human. It's already possible. Like, the technology is there now. That's going to get better.
Tesla Optimus is going to take over.
I mean, I think at that point, there's a scary possibility of getting closer to communism and getting closer to less freedom and getting closer to AI maybe taking over. I mean, Elon Musk is very scared of that. I trust him. Yeah. He's not going to say that for no reason. He's warning people, right? So I was less scared of it until I listened to Elon Musk. Now I'm more scared of it, right? Because I trust him.
Oh, you're more scared after having listened to Elon.
Yes, and I hope he's wrong, but I mean, is he? Like, he knows more than any of us by a significant margin. So if he's that scared of it, we really should listen to him. And maybe he's purposely over amplifying it to try, because he knows people will take a corrective measure that's at a lower level. But there will be a point when you can name almost any job and AI and robots will be able to do it. If you think of it as, okay, well, then humans don't have to work as much and we can have a lot of things that are done for us. Yeah, that's kind of nice to think about. But then you start looking at the downsides of it. If it's done right, it could be a good thing.
Ready Player One.
We'll have to
get in your capsule.
I mean, like, but there's going to be a very rough transition, even if it is capable of being done right, which I hope it is. It's going to be a rough transition because people are already losing jobs.
Yeah,
I mean,
joblessness.
Like, what do you do for the years it takes between the point of losing your job and the point where there's enough of that to sustain humanity without having to work as much?
Sure.
And how do you do that without having communism? Jobs are also fulfilling to people. Like, you like going to work. A lot of people, if they were at home, they would be bored. So how do you have happy humanity combined with that? It's scary.
Yeah, you're right that Elon's been warning us about it. He's also pushing more AI. Like, he's developing, like, they started doing Grok a few months ago last year. He's pushing the Optimus robot.
But is he doing that because it's the only way to fight the other AI?
He has to.
Yeah, that might be it.
Fight
it's going to be a war of like
AI.
Optimus versus Chat GPT bots or whatever.
Uh-huh.
But I also think, like, the transition from humans being hunter-gatherers to an agricultural society, you could kind of make the same arguments. Like, yeah, but people are going to lose jobs. It's like, yes, they're going to lose jobs like picking berries and like fighting boars and stuff, but there's going to be new jobs that are created. Right. So I think as a whole, according to every stat I've seen, most Americans are more worried about AI than they are optimistic about it. Where would you fall on that spectrum?
That's a good question. I think I would be on the more worried side than optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person in every other area of my life. I mean, I love thinking positively. I love looking forward to the future. I love being optimistic. It's hard to be optimistic with AI. It's possible though. Like there are times when I think, oh wow, what if we just like can have the food grown for us by the robots? You know, like okay, thanks for my free meal, or like like if you can have extremely inexpensive food that's grown by robots without it taking over. If you can have your life be easier, you can spend your time working out. Yeah. You know, you can still do productive things, work out, be creative. You know, there's lots of ways we can occupy our time besides a job. Sure. So there's that hope that maybe life will be better for humans on the other side of it, but it's only a hope. And the fear is still creeping up, and the fear level is getting higher and higher the more advanced this gets.
But you know what gave me chills is every time you were talking about I'm an optimistic person, I kept hearing optimist.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Are we in trouble?
Oh no! Hey, by the way, if you're interested in trading or the stock market, financial news, every morning at 5:25 a.m. Pacific time, when the stock market is open, I run a Stock Market Open live stream where we cover all of these topics, the news of the day, what's going on, what to look for in trading or financial news, what the Wall Street analysts are saying, what my thoughts are on what they're saying, and much more. So check that out in the link down below. That is the Meet Kevin Stock Market Open live stream channel. I think the biggest concern there then is the transition, right? So you go from driverless, or you go to driverless cars. Great. All these people who are trained in truck driving or whatever, now jobless. Not saying that'll happen quickly, but when it happens, how do you retrain somebody? How do you train somebody who for, say, 25 years, they're in their mid 40s or whatever, started in their early 20s driving trucks, and they're a professional truck driver, not enough money to retire, plenty of time still to be able to work. Now they have to go learn a new skill. That's hard. And our schools aren't necessarily the best to where we're even training high schoolers enough to be capable at 18. We're not. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with somebody who's now in their mid 40s who just basically had their job replaced? So that's that roughness that you're talking about, huh?
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a tough transition. And I think it's interesting to compare it to like when we went from hunting, gathering to a more civilized civilization. It's so much more drastic than that, because like you went from like having to spend almost all of your time every day surviving to, you only spend a little bit of time per day surviving. And it's going to go from that to what if you have to spend almost no time per day surviving?
Wow.
Like, how are you like, yeah. what is that going to look like?
Yeah.
Also, one thing that I think people should be especially scared of, there are a lot of evil people in the world. There's a lot of evil countries. There's a lot of evil leaders. There's a lot of elites who don't have our best interest at heart. And they're going to have access to some of this crazy technology, miniature robots that are capable of taking people's lives that you can't see, you can't know when they're coming. That is one thing I'm especially scared of.
Oh, wow. Who controls the Epstein killers?
You could be lying in your, right. You could be lying in your bed. A robot can come into your house from anywhere in the world, from any group in the world, and you can
die suddenly.
It can kill you. Yeah. And it can even potentially do it in a way where you wouldn't know. That technology is not far away.
That's scary.
It may even already be here now.
Well, that's almost like
it's
what
terrifying.
You tweeted about Epstein's brother, suggesting how scary it was that you could be under the protection of the government and then be killed. That thought is scary.
Terrifying. I mean, and I firmly believe, his theory is that the government did it. I don't know a ton about his brother, but I think it would be even more accurate to say specific elites did it. Many of them may be in the government,
right?
But once again, the motivation, the ability, they're gonna do it. If maybe like, is it possible they got lucky and he took his own life? Maybe.
There's always that chance.
It's possible, but the chances of that are extremely improbable. I mean, someone like that doesn't typically do something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like the evidence, it doesn't add up.
The lead detective, it's possible he died suddenly at 50. It's weird.
That's right.
It's just weird. Yeah.
It really is.
So, okay, what about like, a lot of this, when we were just talking about optimists, this idea of fulfillment from work, it feels a little the opposite of almost, or maybe it's similar, I guess the way you look at it. Andrew Tate, don't be a slave to work or the man or whatever. Where's that balancing factor? Is Andrew Tate saying, do what fulfills you? Or is he just saying, I don't know. What's your take on him?
I mean, Andrew Tate's an extremely clever businessman. He thinks outside the box. That's how he's able to make a lot of money for himself. And I mean, his idea and his philosophies can be effective, but you have to have that right mindset already for it to be effective. Like he made like his course, actually some pretty smart things on there that he was showing people how to do. Most people though aren't innately in that mindset to where you can figure that. It's really difficult to do anything that's outside of the box. That's why most people should get a normal job, right? Sure. And that's, you can be happy with a normal job. You don't need to do something crazy. But some people have like a specific ability and a specific mindset that not only drives them to do something that's outside of the box, but gives them the ability to. And if you have that, I think his philosophies and his ideas oftentimes can be effective. I mean, something I disagree with him sometimes. I agree with him sometimes.
What do you disagree with him on?
So, for example, Andrew Tate, I think purely on a level of just like how you communicate what the best thing to do for the future is, I think he could do it more effectively. And that's a little bit vague, but I think at the end of the day, Andrew Tate also, like some of the things he did earlier on in his career, he probably shouldn't have.
In relation to women or otherwise?
I mean, it just depends how you look at it. Like for example, he was using like the websites and the cam models and stuff to get men to pay lots of money and get nothing in return. Now you can say that's the men's fault. Like you can blame it on them. I mean, I feel like there's better ways to make money than doing it. I don't think that's a good thing to do. But I don't think you can also judge someone entirely on their past. I think Andrew Tate right now, a lot of his cultural messages are very positive, and he's a counterbalance to a lot of the bad stuff out there. And his brother Tristan, I think actually, I like Tristan personally even more than Andrew. I think Tristan's really interesting to listen to. And no offense, Andrew, in case you're watching, but I mean, yeah, I think Tristan's. I think more people should listen to him. And at the end of the day, they didn't do anything that requires them to be in prison. They didn't break any laws. That's obvious to anyone who looks into it. They held them for months. I think it's kangaroo court charges. I mean,
kangaroo court.
That's how I describe it. But
they still have all his assets, right?
They're still under investigation now.
So I guess there could be charges, but so far it's like what's taking so long if there are charges?
And you have to assume. I mean, you already can assume anyway, looking at the evidence. If there's going to be charges, you have to manufacture them because they didn't actually. They didn't pull off an Epstein Island. They didn't have trafficked women. Much, I mean, underage, magnified the amount of evilness by 100 times, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't do that. And so you can't, like, if you say what they did was morally wrong, you're welcome to have that opinion, right? But they didn't do anything illegal. And at the end of the day, would you rather have someone like, like one of the MSNBC hosts who's culturally influencing the United States, or someone like Andrew Tate? Are we going to go to a culture of extreme wokeness and weirdness, or a culture of self-responsibility, of pushing for striving to be better, working out? Like there's a balance in between, right? But you want to be way closer to that side than you want to be towards the Brian Stelters of the world, or whatever. There's
no proof that the Tates have done anything illegal. No proof that they're guilty. But you did tweet recently a video that said there was proof that both Andrew and Tristan were innocent.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, so. It's easy. I mean, I don't feel like I'm some investigative journalist because I can discover that. I mean, just look at the videos, use common sense. If you have any understanding of human behavior, you can tell those women don't feel like they're being trafficked. Like,
and this is like a CCTV footage essentially of them walking into the gate and they're not like being dragged in.
Yeah, I mean, it feels silly analyzing that because I mean, those are human beings. Like we're not just like analyzing a video game or a movie. Right. Like those are humans, right? So I mean, I think we should listen to them more than anything else. What's their opinion? And none of them say they were trafficked. None of them say. I mean, I think there may have been two that had accusations that came out against him, but those were extremely non-credible. If you look at the actual people who spent time with him, who were living with him, and I don't want to just be an Andrew Tate defender. Like, I mean, it's his job to do that. I'm my own person, right? But I will say, I think it's unfair, and I think it's important to call that out because it could happen to other people. And it won't happen to me. I'm happily married. They couldn't do that to me. They could try, but it would be, no one would believe it.
It's interesting because I mean, really, I like this comparison that you made between Epstein and Tate, where it's like you have underaged accusers accusing Epstein, right?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
No prison time for the people who were involved with that. Andrew Tate, Tristan Tate, going to prison. And the people who are actually in the Epstein client list, not a single one of them has even so much as faced
Outside
charges.
of like Maxwell and Epstein. Right. The other folks.
The other folks.
Yeah.
I mean, we know they were doing it. We know they had a trafficking ring. That's why Maxwell's in prison right now. That's why Epstein was in prison and then was murdered.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
So like Prince Andrew, was it Andrew? It was
Prince Andrew, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure Prince Andrew, should he be arrested?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he needs to be arrested immediately. There's enough evidence to not only arrest him, in my opinion, but to press serious charges against him.
Will it happen?
Oh, probably not. I mean, I hope so, right? We have to hope. I mean, you have to see a change in leadership because these people in these positions of power, they know if they go and arrest him, they're going to be next. Because a lot of the people in these positions of power were part of that ring. And still, many of them do participate in stuff like that.
Do you think more of that is continuing with another Epstein Island somewhere else?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I personally believe Bill Clinton, based on like if you look at patterns of behavior, if you look at where he travels, I can't say conclusively that he definitely has an island. I believe Bill Clinton has an island. I think he still has it, and I think it is still being used in bad ways. And when you see the Clintons disappear for a while, where are they? What are they doing? They're right now actually in Mexico. Why are they in Mexico? Are they near the island that they own? I mean, like what made them randomly decide at the time to go to a bunch of places in South America and meet the president? I mean, he doesn't have any political power. Why is he there? What are they doing?
Interesting. Yeah.
You have to. I mean, it's pretty brazen as that stuff is coming out to be doing that. You would hope that people aren't capable of such evil, but at the end of the day, they are. And it needs to be looked into. I think Bill Clinton, his island that I believe he has, needs to be investigated fully. And if you're not thinking there's more islands, that's crazy. I mean, if there's one, there's many. We know that for a fact.
That's why you proposed renaming the U.S. Virgin Islands to just the U.S.
Islands. Gosh.
People did not like my comment, man.
That's
People
a bad
did not
name.
like it.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, ever since Epstein, they've just been called the U.S. Islands. So the Epstein documents. The Epstein documents don't look good for the Clintons, and there's also a lot of photos of Bill and Epstein. Trump was mentioned a couple times. Yeah, Trump was mentioned a couple times in the documents too, but not as having visited the island, rather than like they visited his casino or things like that. But there are a lot of photos with Trump and Epstein. Do you think the connection is a little bit more than what we know so far, or do you think Trump's completely innocent of, going to the island and doing anything nefarious?
I mean, you can tell based on Trump's personality, no one really believes he would be involved with that. No, you can talk to the guy, listen to the way he thinks. No one actually believes, even the people who say it. Maybe there's people who are brainwashed. I mean, there are people who are brainwashed and they genuinely believe in it. But those who are actually in positions of power to brainwash others, they know what they're doing. They know he wasn't involved in that. I don't care what list there is, and obviously, yes, he's mentioned in those documents as not being involved with it. He wasn't seen on the island. But there are people who are mentioned in those documents as not being involved with it that I do think we need to be suspicious of, because you can look at the way they act, you can look at how they interact with other people, you can see their past pattern of behavior, you can say, that's suspicious, those people need to be looked into regardless. Trump, though, on the other hand, if you look at his personality, I don't think there's any chance he was involved with it. And I'm happy to see exonerating stuff from him. But even if we didn't, I have confidence he would never do that.
So why a strong connection to Epstein? Why were they together so many times?
Epstein was extremely effective at weaseling his way. I think in the pictures we saw were two parties or something. Mm-hmm. He was extremely effective at weaseling his way into these positions of power. A lot of people took the bait. Someone like Trump didn't. Mm-hmm. Many people didn't. And those people deserve
Elon.
I was going to ask about that next. The photo of Elon with Maxwell in the background. Do you think Elon is guilty of anything, or do you believe his statement that he was photobombed?
Yeah, I mean, I believe his statement. He was photobombed, and even at worst, okay, oh sure, I'll take a picture with you. I don't know who you are.
Right.
And the distinction between that and someone who has a picture with him that could also have the same excuse is that you can look at people like Elon Musk, look at his personality. If you interact with him, if you watch the way he acts, you can tell he's not that type of dude. He doesn't have that energy. And so I think that's just trusting that instinct of understanding people's energy is important in whether or not you should be suspicious of them. Really,
That's a really good point. Well, you tweeted recently that actually it was a Tucker Carlson quote. Derek Chauvin is serving a 21-year prison term for a crime he didn't commit. Can you elaborate on why you tweeted that?
Yeah, so that was one of the biggest motivations. I mean, if you look at the riots, many people died. Dozens of people lost their life from that. And those people, no one seems to care. It's so that's one thing. But specifically why I tweeted that out is because if you look at his court case, you can see he had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Now, do I think that, I mean, Derek Chauvin also knew George Floyd. They had interactions before. Do I think he handled it correctly? No, I don't. Do I think it was mostly his training that was responsible for it looking worse and being worse than it could have been? Yes, but at the end of the day, what he was convicted for was not misusing his power as a police officer, was not mishandling the situation. Now, if you convicted him of that, you can make a strong argument that he deserves that conviction. But to say he murdered him when he had a lethal dose of drugs in his system, I don't think that's fair, because if he didn't have that lethal dose, even if the same exact thing had played out, George Floyd would still be alive. I'm very confident right now. And I'll say allegedly with all this, that,
Sure.
you know, we have to include that in anything legal, right? But at the end of the day, I firmly believe George Floyd would still be here if he hadn't been doing drugs. And I don't think someone like that, who literally held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly, who's been a lifelong criminal and drug addict, I don't think someone like that should be praised or glorified in the way he was. And if he had been killed by police, like if he'd actually been unfairly killed by police, which does happen sometimes, I can understand some outrage, but they still shouldn't put statues up of George Floyd. They should call for accountability. You can fire a police officer in that situation. This is not that situation though. And I think obviously there's better strategies. You shouldn't put your knee on the neck of anyone. I don't think that's not, I mean, maybe there's some instances where it's necessary.
And that was like a trained tactic. That was what
but it was what they were trained to do. That's the thing. So
Right.
you can't it's not like he just made up that idea.
Sure.
None of those officers believed they were killing him. At the end of the day, I think they are pure of heart when it comes to, they did not have any intention to kill him at all. There's footage of him using that technique before. There's probably many times he used that technique where there wasn't footage. None of those other people lost their life. If that was the case, that you do that and someone loses their life, there would be thousands of other cases we would have seen of this happening.
And then change the tactic. Get rid of the tactic.
Yeah. I mean, can you find me a single other clip? This is a popular tactic that's been used for a long time. It's not so much now, right? Obviously.
Right.
But can you find me a single clip of someone losing their life from that tactic? I mean, maybe it exists. I haven't seen it. So
it's probably, I think, a lot of the counter push people had against Chauvin and even the jury involved was this, the fact that he didn't check. The amount of time that he was on Chauvin and the no check-in was probably what would increase the substantial level of, maybe what word would you use, brazenness or aggressiveness? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. In my opinion, he could have handled that way better.
Yeah.
I don't think it was an acceptable. I think, like, why wouldn't you, on just a pure human level, even if it's a criminal or even if it's you check on them. It wouldn't have hurt to do that.
No.
He handled it improperly. Now, you can say when your adrenaline's pumping like that, you're not going to make perfect decisions.
Right.
I mean, it's hard. There's people yelling at you all around you. You're probably like frustrated. You're human, right? In that situation, it's super easy to not handle it the right way, which is what happened. Now, if you want to make the case, Derek Chauvin needs to go to prison for misuse of police force, fair. You can make that case. But there's three things that really frustrate me and make me upset, which is, number one, the other officers who are involved are facing extremely lengthy sentences, had their entire lives ruined. And I don't think that's fair, because they really, truly were just doing what they were trained to do. And it wasn't their job to check on him. That should have been what Derek was doing in the position he was in. So they really got the short end of the stick because of the outrage nationwide, which wouldn't have happened, by the way, if the races were reversed. It just wouldn't have. I mean, it's the truth, whether it's uncomfortable to say or not. That's the truth. There wouldn't have been outrage. There wouldn't have been the riots. There wouldn't have been the protests. And we know that for a fact because it has happened before. But anyway, the point is, he could, what he should have done and what he didn't match up. And he deserves to have accountability held against him for that. But is he a murderer? should he be in prison for the rest of his life? No. The answer is just simply no. And even if you say maybe he wouldn't have died, he chose to take a lethal amount of, unless the knee was on the neck, he chose to take the lethal amount. You have to assume, in the police officers' best interest, in this case, you have to assume on their side, because they're in the tough position. They're the ones that have to have the adrenaline pumping. They're the ones that are dealing with this. Assume on their side, lean towards their side. That's what I say.
What do you think about, this quote came from Tucker Carlson. What do you think about his firing from Fox and now has a lot of interviews about aliens lately, but in general, what do you think about his interviews?
And what do you think about aliens?
Yeah.
That's a good one. So with Elon Musk and I guess if you actually look into what's happened with the way, I'll start off with aliens. I guess that's more fun. Let's do that. So there's a lot of area out there. Right? There's a lot of space. You have to assume there's probably, if you look at it from a biblical perspective, there's a decent chance that there isn't any human or life outside of where we are now. But civilization's been around for a long time. Even if you just say at some point humans had a more advanced civilization, were capable of leaving the planet, and there's a decent chance there's life somewhere out there. God absolutely could have created more planets with life. We have no proof that he didn't. So I think it would be really interesting to find an alien one day. We probably never will. That's my guess. I don't think we'll ever see aliens in our lifetime, and maybe humans never will. Yeah. But I hope so. That would certainly be cool. And what was the other thing you were asking about?
Tucker. Yeah, less important.
Less important than aliens, obviously.
Yeah. Getting fired from Fox and now posting on X.
Right. Yeah. So Tucker Carlson, Rupert Murdoch, the owner of Fox, his wife, I think, had a crush on Tucker Carlson.
Oh my God.
Most people don't even know about this.
I didn't know.
So like her favorite talk show host was Tucker Carlson, and that caused a rift in the relationship of Rupert Murdoch and his wife. And I think a huge reason Tucker Carlson was fired, yes, sure, silencing him, yeah, sure, Fox News is just as fake as many other outlets, and you should never watch mainstream media, obviously. But I think that played a bigger role than people even know in why Tucker Carlson was fired with so much money still left on his contract. Wow. And at the height of his prominence, when so many people were listening to him, it's interesting to see how on X he's able to say more and do more. And there's things he would have never done. I don't even know if they would have let him had Epstein's brother on, like, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they would have, I don't know. But it seems his show is better now than it was before, even though it's unfortunate that right now, at least, less people see. Hopefully that changes. I think X should become the mainstream media of the future, where there's actually individual journalists and you can pick and choose, and it's not scripted, and it's not one person who's influencing all of it and the big donors and everything. That would be nice. But, for now, it is what it is.
Do you think X leans more to one side of the political spectrum, and is it hard to amplify things on the other side of the spectrum?
It's shocking. I was on Twitter before Elon Musk took over.
Yeah,
I saw a ton of crazy stuff. It seemed like it was a cesspool for wokeness.
Wow.
And now it seems like it's very based, like more so than it is woke. And it's astonishing to see that, because it shows you how the hand of manipulation had such an impact on the way using it was perceived. They made it so that it felt like the actual representation of people's opinions was way off. And I think a lot of people were influenced by that to become completely different with their opinions than they would have otherwise been. It's fascinating to see the shift that I think was always capable of happening. It's not just because new people are coming. The same people were always capable of this way of thinking, and just it's now been unlocked because they're no longer being censored.
Last question I have is, you mentioned that in the next 10 years we could face a collapse due to the debt in the United States. How are you investing now?
That's a good question. So I'm investing a lot, like putting pretty much all of my money in one particular thing. And that is, Actually, no, I'm not. I need to do more. I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm normal stuff, investing in some stocks, cryptocurrency, that type of thing. I do think crypto is important to invest in. I don't have some master genius strategy to absorb it. I think everyone's going to be in trouble. I mean, if you have an extraordinarily amount of wealth, you can be relatively protected. That's why the elites are allowing this to happen. I mean, the one thing you can do right now, don't hold too much of the dollar. That's really the only advice I can give someone. Don't hold too much of the dollar. Don't hold too much fiat currency. As long as you're doing that, have some protections in place. I'd say go with a cheaper home. Don't try to overreach. Make sure you can own your home outright. If you can do those things, maybe you have to build, right? Maybe you have to build yourself. Figure it out. Watch YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Andrew Tate right there. Figure it out. Build your own home.
You're capable of more than we're all capable of more than we even know. So grind. Figure out a way to protect yourself by living as cheaply as possible to the degree you can still feel comfortable enough now, and put things in place in terms of a home, in terms of other things, to where you don't have to worry about a big mortgage rate, or you don't have to worry about paying things long term. If you can set yourself up sustainably, you will be way safer, at least, than the average individual in the United States. And it's hard to do, but it's possible.
You've advocated for gold and silver in the past. How would you compare that to cryptocurrency? And if you think, what percentage of your portfolio should be gold and silver versus cryptocurrency?
So even with crypto, there are ways to invest in gold through crypto. So when I say crypto, I'm including gold in that, but also, so I partnered with a company that sells gold, and I really like them a lot. I'm investing in a good amount of gold myself and silver, both of them. I think holding precious metals is significantly smarter than holding the dollar. And cryptocurrency may even be, in some ways, it has advantages that even gold doesn't have. So I don't think you should hold 100% of anything. Diversify, have some gold, have some silver, have some cryptocurrency. Even you can throw the dollar a little bit of love, you can have a little bit of it, right? Property, if the more diversified you can be, the better. And I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, right? I know, but I mean, yeah, that's my opinion on it. That's what I think is the smart thing to do.
How's Twitter income?
It's actually, so you'd be surprised. I'm really not making that much. You'd think I have a big account. I have one of the top accounts in the world when it comes to views. Yeah. The amount I'm making from Twitter is really, it's small. It's small. I don't know if that will change in the future. I mean, it'll be cool. It'd be cool to have people be able to make a living from Twitter. But I mean, there are some months where you can only make a couple thousands. Pretty good for posting tweets, right? I put a lot of time and effort into it, though.
Of course, it's
a full-time job for me.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't think at this point it's at the point where you can make it a full-time job. I really don't. People probably think, oh, he makes so much money. No, it's not. I mean, I really don't make that much.
Is the platform going to survive?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I love doing it. That's why I'm not doing it because you're not going to get rich from posting on Twitter. I love what I do, and I love informing people. I love helping to shift the culture in what I believe is a significantly more positive way. And even if that sometimes takes pushing the boundaries, you have to push the boundaries in order to change the way the way society is functioning now. And it's functioning in many, many bad ways right now that need to be changed, and it needs to be done quickly, in my opinion.
Anything else?
I was gonna, but that was such a good way to end it.
That was fantastic. That was really good. How do people follow you?
So you can follow me on X, obviously, which is at Matt Wallace 888, MattWallace 888. If you just type in Matt Wallace, it should come up. So you can follow me on X. I have a YouTube channel as well, which is just my name. You can type in Matt Wallace, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube. I try to bring a lot of information and make it so that people find real value, not just entertainment, when they come and watch my channel. So definitely come join on those places. And I started my YouTube career in part because of the man sitting across from me right now, Kevin. So I do want to say thank you for posting videos as consistently as you have. Thank you for inspiring people. I'm sure tell you all the time, like, you helped inspire them to do stuff because you have a huge channel, right? So I mean, I appreciate that. I want to tell you that on camera. Thank you for inspiring me to start this, because I would have never done a lot of this if it wasn't for watching YouTubers and seeing that. And it's really cool how it works. If you're out there right now, you want to do that, the most important thing I can tell you, consistency. The statistics of having a successful YouTube channel, if you post every day for a year, are magnitudes higher than if you don't. If you go that's the one goal to set every day for a year. You don't even have to make good videos. You will get better as you go along. If you do that, your chances of success, if you have a good strategy and you post every day, are close to 50%, which is extraordinary. And it could be slightly lower than that, but that's the only way to really have a decent chance to succeed. And so if you want to, try that.
Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purposes of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services we may benefit from. I also personally operate an actively managed ETF and hold long positions in various securities mentioned, including potential short positions. However, I have no relationship to any issuers, nor am I presently acting as a market maker.